Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to concentrate on the very lively weather we do have come up in the next couple of days and in general the next week or so, as we are going to see constant southerly or southwesterly winds not only wafting up big areas of warm and humid air, but also we're going to be seeing some quite big thunderstorms and big areas of rain and even some very strong winds, especially through tomorrow. Now we'll start on the live radar. We'll go over to the weather warnings as we do have that wind warning issued further westwards, but you'll also have a thunderstorm warning issued for parts of England for tomorrow morning into the early afternoon. We don't have a warning issued for the rain and storms in the evening, as there still is some uncertainty about the intensity of that system, but we could still see that issued tomorrow. Then we'll go through some various shorter range runs. Look at the UKV. We're going to have a now look at the Rome run, so we're in the time frame for that, and we'll also have a look at the latest from the Icon run. All three showing big thunderstorms over the next 24 hours or so, but all got them in slightly different positions and intensity, so it'll be interesting exploring those for the first half of the video. In the second half of the video, we'll be having a look at the longer range, as there's still prospects for some very warm air to move up towards early next week. The models have got at least the 15-degree isotherm moving up from the majority of them, but we are seeing a bit of a pattern that it could get cut off a little bit earlier than we anticipated over the past few days. Perhaps by next Thursday, Friday time, we start to see a little lingering low pressure system move in from the west, introducing some fresher air. But when that gets mixed in, there could be another risk of storms next week. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So do start on the live radar. You can see it's a really quite pleasant and dry day today, pretty much the calm before the storm tomorrow. Is one thing that has really picked up in the last day or so is that real intensity of the low pressure system that is going to trigger thunderstorms and heavy rain through tomorrow. Looking at it, I wouldn't be surprised if it was named, looking at the intensity of the wind gusts and the strength of the low pressure system. But the fact is, we're only a matter of hours, about 12 to 24 hours away from it starting to arrive, so I doubt we'll see any major shifts like that, but I suspect we will see warning updates. But at the moment, it's really quite pleasant. A few patchy showers around inevitably, but most areas pretty dry. And you look at the temperatures, that's around the 1 p.m. point, and it's fairly warm. Not crazy, but temperatures still into the mid-20s, a lot better than it's been through much of the first half of August. And those temperatures are just going to continue to rise over the next few days, but unfortunately get mixed in with a bit more cloud and rain, especially through tomorrow, and maybe lingering into the weekend as well. But much more pleasant, and quite a beautiful day today, if I'm being honest. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings, you'll be able to see things all do change into tomorrow. We've got this wind warning issued for western areas, hasn't been updated today. Again, I'll run through it very quickly. Again, period of strong easterly winds expected, sufficient enough to cause some disruption. And you see here 45 to 55 miles per hour, maybe as high as 60 miles per hour. We'll be able to look at some of those raw wind gusts from the latest UKV in a minute. And then we've got this other warning, this thunderstorm warning, that stretches for most of southern England here into parts of the West Midlands, right onto the border with Wales. You see, from 6 a.m. until midday tomorrow, so only a 6-hour warning, and it's for the storm risk in the morning, not the main heavy thundery risk in the evening. We're not seeing any warnings issued for that yet. I don't think that's because warnings won't be issued, but I think it's more because there is still quite a bit of uncertainty about the intensity and timings of that system as it moves in. As some runs do simply have it as a big area of very heavy rain with gusty winds. Other runs have heavier rain in the west and some big thunderstorms triggering in the east. I just think simply because the models aren't in agreement yet, we haven't seen any warnings issued for it. But we've got the warning issued for tomorrow morning. A line of thunderstorms is expected to develop during Friday morning and move gradually northeastwards for weakening into the afternoon. While most places will only see a short period of heavy rain, a few places could see 30 to 40 millimetres of rain in less than 2 hours. In addition to heavy rain, some thunderstorms may produce frequent lightning. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. It really is going to be a line of storms, as we'll see from the models in a minute. It really is going to be quite a narrow band of storms, so quite a few areas in this yellow warning zone will either see nothing or see maybe just some patchy rain and maybe some decaying storms, especially in the northern and eastern extent of this. See some heavier rain in the early afternoon, but no lightning activity as the storms decay away. But where the line does set up, it could be really quite severe for a couple of hours, and that's why there is the risk of 30 to 40 millimetres of rain. And again, it is in the morning, and then the main risk again, more widely, is in the evening. Rain further northwards and westwards and further eastwards, the risk of storms spreading up from the Channel and northern parts of France. So do go over to the UKV now, we'll be able to see this risk in quite a lot of detail. Now you can see over the rest of today, it's pretty quite pleasant. A few showers possible, but you start to see out the west some lingering rain moving in, and that's the introduction of the low pressure system. Now initially through the morning we start to see those bands of thunderstorms break out, and you can see where the main storm risk is. It's further westwards in the warning zone. And the UKV here actually extends it further into Wales, which is interesting. Not all runs do that, but that's interesting. Perhaps would warrant an extension of this warning zone further northwards and westwards. And you can see initially it's quite stationary from around the 8 to 10 a.m. point, before you can see it sort of slowly moves northwards but decays as it does. As you can see, those darker reds do disappear. And this is why I said further northwards and eastwards you may see heavier rain, but you won't see the big thunderstorms because they do decay away. So again, we have to take that into account. So there could be some severe conditions for the southern and western portions of the warning zone before heavy rain further northwards and eastwards, before completely decaying away around the mid-afternoon. Got a lot of cloud around, but you can see this huge clump of extremely heavy rain further westwards, and this really quite severe low pressure system moving in. It really has intensified over the last couple of days, and you see it moves northwards through the evening, really impacting most areas overnight, luckily, so it shouldn't give them too many washout conditions during the day. But you can see some really intense rain, and you can see this from these lines appearing around the centre of the low here. Again, these are areas where we could see some really high rainfall totals, tens of millimetres, and we could see some line convection appearing as a result of some convergence zones within the low pressure system, and of course we could see some very gusty winds within this. And then the issue with thunderstorms is on this eastern edge. If you run over the next couple of hours, you can see some even darker reds appearing than what is in the main band of precipitation. This is where storms could trigger on the eastern edge as the low pressure system engages with incredibly hot air to our east. That hot air a couple of days ago was showing 30 degrees in the east through tomorrow, but because of the storm activity in the morning and the thicker cloud, we're not going to be seeing 30 degrees, maybe mid-20s, feeling really humid. Instead, that hot air really is just fueling the storms in the east. And you can see this is why we've got no weather warnings issued yet. Not because the intensity of this system isn't going to be severe tomorrow, but because of the uncertainty with it. Through the early hours of Saturday, it does slowly clear away, and you can see some really intense rainfall for eastern areas before it does slowly clear away. And the central low lingers through much of Wales, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, into Scotland through much of Saturday, giving heavier rain in places, but it does decay away, so we should see at least some brighter spells further southwards. And then into Saturday and Sunday, you can see generally dry further southwards, but we still see some showers in places. For as we head into next week, we actually do start to see some warmer air waft up from the south, a few heavier showers in the north, but further south and eastwards it won't be too bad. You see by Tuesday, round the high pressure system to the north and western extent, we could see some areas of instability triggering some storms, but again, we'll have to have a look at that in more detail through the weekend. Now you can see the upper air temperatures. This is what is fueling the thunderstorms tomorrow. You can see really high upper air temperatures arrive during the morning around the low to mid-teens. Again, not ridiculously high, but still really quite high, well above average. And then into the afternoon and evening, you can see this plume of very intense air. Around the 18 or 19 degrees at 850 HPA air masses. We rarely do see, the last couple of summers we've seen it maybe once or twice during the summer, but prior to that, it really is once in a many years sort of occasion seeing this sort of heat coming in. But in this situation, it really is only fueling storms, not really going to improve our temperatures all too much because it is occurring overnight and when we have got rain around. But that's why the thunderstorms are triggering in the east. You can see the upper air temperatures are a good few degrees hotter, more energy, more humidity, combined with that instability, triggering that storm area. Beyond that, we do see slightly cooler air sweep in for the weekend, but still got some lingering warmth at the surface, so it'll still actually be not too bad, mid-20s at best in places. And then as we head into early next week, you can start to see warm air wafting up from the south again, uncertainty exactly how far northwards it will get, but the slow southerly flow and generally warm air will allow those temperatures, again, get in the mid, maybe even high 20s. If you look at the wind gusts, you'll be able to see really intense winds could arrive tomorrow. Doesn't look too bad around lunchtime, nothing of note, but by the evening, winds really pick up across the Irish Sea, and look at that, that is intense. 50 to 60 miles per hour widely for coastal areas, as high as 70 or 80 miles an hour. This is as high or even higher than Storm Antony was a week or two back. So that's why I said at the start of the video, there is the risk of this being named, but this really has intensified significantly the last day or two, and this would warrant definitely an extension of that yellow wind warning, perhaps for parts of southwest England and for the whole of South Wales here through the early hours of Saturday, for eventually it does decrease in intensity as it moves northwards. But even here, widely 40 to 50 miles per hour for Northern Ireland and Northern England, inland areas that is, not just for coastal areas. Another big thing coming with this system tomorrow is the insanely high dew points. Look at that, overnight Friday, dew points close to 20 degrees. So if you do avoid the biggest thunderstorms, if you do stay a little bit drier, especially through Saturday afternoon before the main rainfall arrives, it's going to feel extremely sticky, extremely humid, like we are in the tropics. Now finally from the UKV, if we do look at the max temperatures, you can see through the rest of today, widely mid-20s, 23 to 25 degrees, pretty decent, and nice and sunny as well. Into Friday, temperatures low 20s, maybe mid-20s at best, but we have seen an increase in cloud. So the last 2 days it's gone down from 30 degrees to about 22 to maybe 24 because thicker cloud and more thunderstorm activity. As we head into Saturday, we could just about get up into the mid-20s again, 25, maybe 26 degrees is possible in the east. And to Sunday, pretty similar again, 24, 25, maybe 26. And then finally into Monday, temperatures more widely into the low to maybe mid-20s. Again, another decent day. Again, we'll have to wait and see how much of that hot air will move up from the south and whether it does get cut off. Some of the longer range charts are indicating a bit more of a cut off there. If we do now have a look at the Rome run and compare that, if we go to the England-Wales look, you can see over the next few hours, nothing too much going on through the rest of the day, a few showers, but as we head into tomorrow morning, we can see that big thunderstorm risk for southern areas. Again, mainly in that yellow warning zone, and it spreads northwards and eastwards. It does decrease in intensity, but a bit slower than the UKV did, and it does it earlier in the morning. Here, the most intense storms are actually around the 6 to 8 a.m. point, eventually clearing northwards, and a bit more of an intact line of showers there. Definitely more intense, more widespread than the UKV was saying, for eventually does decay away through the afternoon, but still has a few heavy showers and storms across Wales and parts of the West Midlands. Now, unfortunately, the main band of very heavy precipitation we can't see. That's the Rome run only goes out 36 hours. So unfortunately, we can't have a look at that yet, but we'll be able to look at that tomorrow morning as that does move in. And it's this eastern portion here. We've got some cape across northern France where we do expect the most intense thunderstorms to occur. Also, just want to check out the wind gusts associated with this, see if we've got anything particularly strong here yet. Again, we are starting to see those wind gusts pick up, maybe 90 kilometers per hour, so maybe 50 to 60 miles per hour at this point. And again, it's the hours following this to around the midnight point where the biggest gusts of winds pick up. But still, in that area of southern Wales and southwest England, so I wouldn't be surprised if that yellow warning we do have for parts of Wales does get extended to cover more of England and more of Wales. And finally, if we do look at the icon run, you can see through tomorrow morning big thunderstorms break out in the south. Again, mainly around the 8 or 9 a.m. point before clearing further northwards and eastwards, staying a bit more intact, so more in line with the Rome run, clearing northwards and eastwards. That would definitely keep the temperatures down significantly. And then through the evening, heavy showers, and then you can see the storm risk in the east again. Not particularly high resolution, this icon run, compared to the Rome or the UKV, but still showing some really quite intense pulses of rain there. If you also do have a look at the winds here, wind gusts, you can see that we've got the strongest winds developing across as we head through the early hours of Saturday, again through that portion of southwest England and South Wales. Again, I would be surprised if we didn't see an extension of that yellow weather warning just looking at some of these wind gusts appearing. So it's going to be very intense over the next 24 hours to 36 hours. But by the time we get into Saturday, Most areas are actually going to be a much nicer, much brighter, slightly fresher air, so little or lesser in terms of humidity. But it will still be fairly warm, low to mid-20s quite widely, so the weekend is actually shaping up to be pretty decent. But what do we have in store beyond that? Now, if you look at the latest GFS, you can see that low approaching from the Atlantic really quite intense as it moves in. But into the weekend, we see high pressure ridge in, and for early next week, we see high pressure ridge in as well. And this gives us a bit of a southerly flow, warmer air moves in, and it's fairly decent through much of next week. But it's this low pressure system towards Iceland which is now causing a bit of headaches. Now, this wasn't here the last couple of days, but it's now appearing from more runs. And what this does is by the end of next week, moves back in with a pocket of cooler air, and we actually see temperatures drop to around average or slightly below average and more unsettled beyond this. This would really spice up and give us some quite chilly conditions. And you can see we are right on the periphery of extremely hot air, and it's this low pressure system not allowing the high pressure to move northwards by the middle of next week, which is going to cut off this warm, humid air that is spreading into the southeast. Now you can see the temperature deviations average well above average for much of England and Wales here, but it starts to drop by Thursday, Friday time, which is a big change to what was showing over the last couple of days. And it really is just a small pocket of cool air with generally above average temperatures around us. So big spanner of the works has appeared very recently. And all the models are actually showing it. Very interesting seeing this. It will go warm next week. You can see that. We go well above average for at least a few days, but just not quite as long and not quite as intense as we thought a couple of days ago, or even yesterday from some of the runs. The GM is similar. Low pressure moves in over the next day or so. High pressure rebuilds back in. And then this pesky low moves back in through Wednesday or Thursday, giving us cooler conditions and showery conditions. Again, it's not particularly intense, so it won't produce anything too major, but it will be cooler and more unsettled. Again, very warm air is for the southeast by Wednesday, but eventually it gets slowly shoved away by the end of the week. So we go from above average, maybe considerably above average if this southerly flow held on a little bit longer, before eventually it goes slightly cooler. And finally, if we look at the ECMWF, again, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, we see high pressure build back in, and that pesky low returning from the north, giving us cooler conditions when we're surrounded by well above average air masses to our north, our east, our south, and our west. Not good at all. Just this pocket of cool air streaming from the Arctic between Iceland and Scandinavia, right towards us, unfortunately, by day 10. Now, we can see this from the latest ensembles. Do refresh the latest GFS, so they were just updating as I started recording this. You see, bumping up our temperatures as this system moves through tomorrow. Slightly lower for the weekend, but still above average. Another bump in upper air temperatures next week to about 5 to 7 degrees above average. And then a drop to average or below average. That really has come very quickly from the models. Some of them were still showing the 20-degree isotherm yesterday and even in the evening. Now completely reverted to something a bit cooler, especially come the not this upcoming weekend, but weekend after. So you can just see the volatility in these models and how they are quickly changing. And again, they have changed for a colder pattern here, but we must remember that they equally could change to a very hot pattern. That hot air is very close by, a matter of 50 to 100 miles for parts of the southeast of England. So it can change very quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did shift significantly at times in the near future. The 2 mean temperatures in the next week are going to be fairly decent. You can see, even with that cooler pattern coming in perhaps in around 7, 8, 9 days' time, generally the next week, apart from perhaps tomorrow and some areas we do see a bit of rainfall around, it's going to be mid-20s, maybe high 20s come next week. So it's going to be fairly decent. Not 30 plus degrees that some runs have been showing, but I did say a couple of days ago what I did expect widely was the mid to high 20s, and that's what looks likely what we're going to see for at least a few days early next week. Maybe not as long as initially thought, but definitely for a few days. So it's going to be fairly decent and fairly warm. The ECMWF is very similar, big spike in upper air temperatures tomorrow, and then again as we head into next week. But again, around 7, 8, 9 days' time, dropping again to around average with the precipitation picking up. So it's going to be a bit of a change once again. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out, but there still is quite a lot of volatility next week. But regardless of what happens with that little low pressure system, we're going to see at least a few days, maybe as much as, if you include the weekend, maybe as much as 5 or 6 days of very warm and very good dry conditions, especially for much of England and Wales. But we've got to get through the very lively weather tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned to the videos and, of course, look at the Met Office forecast and their weather warnings, as I'm sure they will be very interested in what's going to go on over the next 24 hours. It could be really quite disruptive. Not only very heavy rain with a low pressure system, but very strong gusty winds that are really amplified in the last day or so, and the risk of some big thunderstorms in the morning and on the eastern edge through the evening. So as I said, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.